Well, of course, there are other superhero franchises, if you will, beyond the big two of DC and Marvel. Not so big now, but anyway, we have the animated series on Amazon Prime, Invincible, based on Robert Kirkman. Yes, the same one who created The Walking Dead. Let's hope this one ends better than that one did. Both comic book and TV series, which I guess it is ending now. I don't know. I gave up on it several seasons ago. Oof. So let's hope this turns out better. And well, it's off to a great start. And the other was Mark Millar's Jupiter's Legacy. And I decided to do sort of, I guess, Invincible versus Jupiter's Legacy. And one would think that Jupiter's Legacy would have an advantage. It's live action. And I read that series. There is another volume coming, or maybe it's already out. I haven't been to a comic book store in a long time now. But the first 3 volumes, if you will, I enjoyed. I particularly liked the second one, which went back into the past of the younger days of Utopian and his group of, well, it's the Justice League. I mean, come on. Utopian is Superman and so on and so forth. So I guess we'll start with Jupiter's Legacy. Once again, similar to how Walking Dead happened, the adaptation took quite a few liberties from the source material, not in total to the point that it's an entirely different story, but, you know, so that there's some surprises in there and stuff like that. And for the most part, it appears to be that's the same here with Jupiter's Legacy. But there's quite a few differences. I'm not quite sure if they're going to go where it went with the kids. I guess they're building it up to the son to give him more of an explanation for himself. But basically, Jupiter's Legacy in the comic book series, you had, you know, the Justice League, if you will, and they're spoiled, bratty kids who were living the celebrity life for just being celebrities and that sort of thing, and didn't really seem to care about their actual legacy of following Super Dad and Super Mom's footsteps into the superhero world. And they get manipulated by their uncle. There's a little bit of spoiler here for the plot, but if you've seen Jupiter's Legacy, you know who the real villain is now. It's the uncle. And so, but with Jupiter's Legacy, and I took from it, even from like the trailers and whatnot, that they were going to kind of combine all of the comic books into one. In that, like the second volume goes back in the past, kind of like, I guess it's around the 60s or so. Yeah, that's when it was. And I often described it as Mad Men meets superhero. So, and that's kind of, at least stylistically and whatnot, and how it could have looked. And, but it sets up a story for, you know, some groundwork for why the uncle is the way he is and stuff like that. The series does this very well. As well, in fact, has more depth into it, and in fact tells the whole story of how they get their superpowers. It's still somewhat mysterious, like what is obviously some sort of alien thing, and that's what you could assume from the comic book. The comic book is very brief about that. It mentions it. Perhaps this new volume coming will go into that. I don't know, but the series tells the whole story. And there's some good stuff here. There's even a fairly decent action scene of the superheroes battling the supervillain and stuff like that. And does borrow some things from the comic book. But it's quite the letdown in a lot of ways. It's for one thing, it's drags on way too much to tell this story. In a lot of ways, I was like, well, you know, you get more details and stuff, and some of that's a plus, but man, the whole season of this, and gee, I hope they get another one so we get more, you know, well, not if it's going to be like this, you know, to answer the questions that they posed. And I, some aspects I kind of wanted to know more about Utopian and stuff in the comic book. Somewhat spoiler, you don't get to do that for a certain reason. And I'm guessing that's ultimately what's going to happen. But they're going to, boy, are they just baby steps, exploring his psyche and stuff. But it goes off on these tangents, and he's haunted by his father. But that's a signal from this source of power that it's been testing and driving people crazy. I don't know for how long, who tried to find it, and they find the corpses of people who've been there before them, but they went insane and didn't get the powers. But they did. They managed to go through all the challenges, and I guess whatever this alien force was set that in the hopes that the best would get through, so they would be worthy of these superpowers. And there you go. They get them, and I guess it also gave them their super suits. I don't know, because they appear to this boat that brought them to this mysterious island. Yeah, it's a mysterious island where they get their powers, and all that. It's very well shot, and a lot of the recreations of the past stuff looks cool. I didn't live in those days, so I don't know if it's completely accurate, but it looks cool. And stuff like that. There's some good performances here and there, but overall, I don't know. I think I keep coming to this, that a lot of these things need to be shortened and made a little tighter, especially unless you have the material to drag it out. Hell, I don't care if the thing's 30 episodes, if you've got the material for it. But I haven't seen anything like that lately that does. And so Jupiter's Legacy, I was pushing for it, but I think it dropped the ball on its first season because it's dragging out story, and that tells me it don't have a whole lot. Maybe it'll pick up the pace in the next season, but I don't know. So, coming out about the same time, of course, over at Amazon Prime, Jupiter's Legacy on Netflix, of course, is Invincible, which was the other comic book property that was pretty popular, certainly in its initial run from Robert Kirkman. And it basically, once again, another take on Superman, if you will. But this one, where we get the idea of Superman having a son. And, of course, later on, the real Superman had one. And it was a pretty good story until John Michael Bendis came in and ruined it. But here, this was, you have to give it some, leeway here or what have you, because this is some time ago that it came out. And now, since then, there's been so many evil Supermen that everyone is sick to death of it. But, because now the boys, they have their evil Superman. And also, Utopian's not evil. By no way it means by ever is he. He's just a little blind to certain things, and it's, going to be his undoing. But here, Omni-Man is evil. He's the Superman of the story. And I was not a big follower of Invincible in the comics, but I'd seen enough to know the basic big surprise of the story. And, the first episode, they tell you, the rest of the characters don't know it. Slowly but surely they figure it out. And unfortunately, it hits his son like a brick wall, and he has to deal with that. And it sets it all up. And he basically has to at first he was like, I'm going to follow Dad's footsteps. But in the end, he's got to actually be the real superhero that he was only pretending to be. And of course, so Omni-Man's a big traitor. He was actually there to get ready to wipe out whatever defenses the Earth had against his people's invasion. They're conquering planets all over the place. And that's why he came there. And he sees Invincible's mother as a pet. That's the only affection he has for her. But for him, he was going to give him a pass and try to tell him, you got to join me and all this sort of stuff. And he's telling him, one of the points he makes is quite interesting. He says, look, the lifespan of our kind, the Viltrumites, is so long that you develop any feelings with these people, they're going to be dead. And you'll still be about as young as you are now, and any dedication or feelings you'll have is just going to crush your heart over and over, to the point where, at some point, if you keep trying to have relationships with people like humans, you're not going to be able to anymore, because it's going to make you cold and whatnot. You can imagine all that. Of course, looks like it's already happened to Omni-Man. But even in that moment of where he's beating his son, trying to force him into seeing it his way, there's a moment. It's a pretty good moment, and I won't spoil it. So that and of course, I do know that later on there is some meeting between them. I don't know how that'll follow. I didn't see all the issues. To me, it looks a pretty good, true to the original story. I don't know how much they added or took away in it. And there's some dumb things in it. There's some stupid stuff, but it's not that bad. And overall, yeah, it's brutally violent. I mean, good Lord. And it's a superhero cartoon, but it's not the Super Friends. I mean, it's just vicious and what happens. So yes, this is a very adult show. Just don't be fooled by the cartooniness of it, which is pretty much, it could have passed easily for a Saturday morning cartoon, just not all the blood and guts everywhere. So, but it is true to the source. I don't fault them when they do adaptions where they change things up a little bit here and there, and to add in some surprises that you didn't see coming, even though you read the book or what have you, and that sort of thing. I'm fine with that. But Jupiter's Legacy is very, very different. It seems to be telling the same story, plot points and all that, but it's quite different. Whereas Invincible, I'm not seeing that. Granted, I didn't read all of it, but still. But as far as on point and pacing, and even though it's got several episodes, and it takes a while to get to the final confrontation here where Invincible learns the truth and all that, it doesn't matter. The episodes give you something each time. There's quite a few adventures here. There's, of course, the teenage romances that he's involved in and that sort of thing, because he's still in high school and all that. But it all flows very well. And I call this Invincible versus Jupiter's Legacy. Invincible wins, hands down. And I'm kind of sad about that, because I really did like Jupiter's Legacy. But got to be honest, between the two shows, Invincible performed much better. And so that one's the winner here. And I think it ends on a high note for it. And we'll look forward to the next season. And hope that Jupiter's Legacy can pick its game up. I don't know. I mean, I was kind of enchanted with Umbrella Academy. Then the second season, I'm like, it just kind of fizzled. I don't know what the hell. I don't even know how they do it. Now they're in an alternate universe or something at the end. I forget. But so, if the Jupiter's Legacy season is worse than the first one, then it's dead. Okay. I mean, but if they rebound and pick it up, and get more into it. I mean, they've told the story of them getting their powers and stuff. Hopefully they'll pick up the pace and maybe cut the length of episodes. If you don't have the material, shorten it and make the stories tighter, and I think therefore stronger. It might help it. As for Invincible, keep doing what you're doing. Looks like it's working. So anyway, that's my take on those two shows. Of course, available on Netflix and Amazon Prime, respectively. Check them out if you haven't, and see what you think. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness. So many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.